are actually recording.
Yay!
Oh, how are you today?
I'm doing pretty good. Fresh and showered, so
Nice, you too. I'm digging the shirt. That's pretty cool. Is that
thank
your
you.
artwork back there in the background?
Yeah, that's one of my paintings. Let's see. There's some artwork above me too. This is my parasol.
Very cool. Wow, look at that. That's impressive. You made all that? Nice. I did not make this couch. So
Um,
did not make the couch.
oh.
Sorry. I know it's disappointing after all that stuff you just showed, but
I
well,
didn't like our couch either, and our couch is not nearly as clean as yours, as you can see.
give it time. I've only lived here 3 months, so give it time, it will happen. So let me be the first to welcome you to Make Your Own Fun here with Kelsey Bryan-Zwick. And unfortunately, Alex couldn't make it. She's still having some ongoing family issues, so she's kind of taken a step back from the show for a while. She wishes she could be here, but she's excited to see this when it's all put together. So awesome. So first, congrats on the book. That's so awesome.
Thank you.
And go ahead and tell everybody the name of the book and the press and when the ballpark is you think it might be coming out.
So I have had a book accepted by Moontide Press. It's called Here Go the Knives. And it is due out at the beginning of 2022.
Nice, nice.
Yay.
Do you have like a preliminary kind of like rollout in terms of like open mics and shows that Moontide is going to do for that? Do you know yet?
I have gotten to do one of their quartet readings, which was sort of their Zoom offering during this whole last year. And I got to read with three other Moontide poets, Lincoln McElwee, Terry Nickum, and Donna Hilbert. So that was really nice. I imagine, yeah, there will be some plans in the works. It's still a little early for me to get my calendar organized that far ahead. But I appreciate opportunities like this to share about all the exciting news.
No, I'm
You
happy
can
to do it. Happy to do it.
follow me at the Exquisite Poet, to get all the updates if you're interested. I'd love it. So
For sure, for sure. And I don't know if you can tell, I got this high definition webcam. And now when I don't shave for a day or two, it literally just looks like the bottom of my face is just sandpaper. Like it's only been like 2 days and it's just like technology is wonderful. So I do have a few questions and sounds like you've been all coffeeed up. So I can proceed with these. So let me ask, why poetry as opposed to other artistic outlets? Because I know you obviously do craft work and painting and things like that, but what about an idea or something or an inspiration kind of makes you reach for like a pen or a computer or something instead of going to like an easel or another craft project?
oh yeah. Wow, I wish I knew the whole mystery behind it. There's like this quote that I love. It's like, not even the god of springtime. Was that you could ask spring how like why it's so beautiful, but not even the god of springtime knows, right? There's just this lovely mystery in what makes art art. But I know I've been always attracted to language. I'm bilingual. I grew up moving from one country to another. And so just these pockets of misunderstanding or mistranslation or have always sort of fascinated me. And I've wanted to sort of fill these little voids or vortexes with my own narrative. Yeah, just the rhythm of a poem, the way you can share so many ideas in such a little amount of space and time. I always bring poetry books to doctor's offices because you never know how like long the wait is going to be, and you can always like read a poem for 5 minutes, 10 minutes. You can jump around in a book. It's like a choose your own adventure. It's um,
But
more
you also have to deal with those like highlights magazines and National Geographics from like 35 years ago that like all the crosswords have been done.
right. It's like the reading material is pretty limited. I would love if doctors' offices just provided their own poetry.
You know what?
Collect
I mean, I know it sounds crazy. Maybe you could talk to them about it in the
I know.
future.
I mean, there's a lot of literary
An
magazines. They do
untapped resource.
like that's probably a side project, but yeah. No, I love that poetry can be anywhere and about anything. So
And there's another voice I hear in the background there.
meow. Ladybug says, I want attention. Meow.
Nice.
Now we got three cats and a fish here. So
Yeah, I was gonna say, just to put my 2 cents and piggyback on what you were
please.
saying, is that it, like you were saying, it's kind of hard to describe, but I feel like poetry is more about chasing down a feeling, because it's kind of like a lightning bolt kind of thing, where it's like, wherever I am, it's like I feel crazy just kind of grabbing like a napkin at a restaurant or something, and I'm just chasing down a feeling. Whereas like if it's a story, it's going to develop over time, and I've got to kind of like sit on it, or a script or whatever. But like poetry is always about like that lightning bolt feeling, and like you feel like you have to chase it down or it'll get away. Like for me anyway, I mean, you might be different, everybody's different, but I'm not a person that like will sit on a poem and like let it percolate. A lot of people can do that, but for me it's like I know it's going to be really good and powerful if I can at least get like the the zygote of the idea, just something, even if I'm just writing it on my freaking like hand or something, and
Yeah.
then you've got that half finished poem, and then it just ends with because you've just mushed it. But
Oh, so many mysterious morning notes from like trying to figure out what I was thinking the night before, like the week or year before even. I've got all my old notebooks. It's like,
have you done that
whatever.
thing where you're half awake and you're writing an idea, and then like you come in and out of like sleep or a nap or something, and then you go back and you look at the paper or the scrap or whatever it was that you wrote it down on, and then like you're like, this is great, and then halfway down you're like, milk, grapes, eggs, you're like, fuck. Like you just started writing a grocery list
Yeah.
like halfway through, and you're like, brain.
Yeah. Yeah, there's just some of that alchemy in terms of the initial inspiration, the way the words themselves are combining, um, that makes it a poem and not something else. Although I also love hybrid form. So it's like take a painting, put a poem on it. There's the whole page versus stage poetry. Like I love both. Yeah, just whatever you want to do with that creativity. I think trying not to put limitations or expectations is sort of, what is it, like let yourself suck, let yourself mess up, let yourself do whatever it is.
Fail
It's
to climb up to succeed.
our
Right?
creative time. Huh?
Fail to climb up to succeed, right?
Oh, I love that. Yeah.
So this is a total like, because I know that you've been there before, and you've been doing this for a while like me. So I don't know if you've had friends or family members or whatever. I've had people like tell me like I'm having a conversation with somebody, and all of a sudden I'll just drift off and I'll just like reach for a pen or my phone, and they're like, dude, you've got on face, are you like in it right now? And I'm just like, it's just and it's so horrible and it's so rude, but you're like, you can't tell everybody like time out. Like I had an ex-girlfriend of mine, and she's just like, just do it, just go in the other room, whatever, just do it. Because it was just like you have that like, me anyway, I know I've seen myself where people tell me it's like I'll have that like whimpering like puppy dog thing, where I'm just like, you're talking and all of a sudden you're like chomping at the bit, like something just landed in your brain, and you're just
Yeah.
like, does that ever happen to you? Has anybody ever said anything to you?
I definitely get that, like, lines sort themselves out whenever. So especially when I'm in the middle of editing something, like I have usually it's the bits that don't quite fit running through my mind. And then like, yeah, as soon as they're ready, I gotta write them down. My partner's also a poet and a writer. And yeah, we definitely have that rule of like, as soon as you're in poem mode, there's no interruption. Uh,
It's
it,
horrible though, like to be interrupted. I mean, not horrible, wham, it's like first world problems, but it does suck if you're having like a discourse or a conversation, or you're like walking somewhere, or you're in a car, or in a restaurant, and it's like you have the cup, and all of a sudden you're just, it's happening or something. I don't know how to describe it, but I don't know. I don't think
yeah.
I've been on the other side of it. So I've never been on, like I've dated women that have like written in the back of poet. I think we've all been guilty of writing in the back of like a poetry reading, and just like something happens and somebody says something and you're inspired and you're just like fuck, and you just grab something and you scribble it down. But I've never been in that situation on the other side of the table or whatever, where the person is just kind of like, I don't know, had that superhero moment where they're just like, I sense something. Yeah, there's a
Yeah.
poem in the air. All right, so switching gears, with everything opening up, it kind of made me think about, open mics and stuff like that again. And I've been kind of talking with writer friends of mine, and wanted to ask you what your weirdest open mic experience is, and or if that like deals with a heckler or something, if you wanted to expound on that.
My weirdest poetry reading experience. I I would say that my reading have mostly been lovely, which is so wonderful. The poetry community is a really special, like I consider it like my church, I guess, like open mics and that kind of thing. Like I said, you can go, you will listen to poems about pretty much any topic, in all states of drafts. I just find that terribly refreshing. I have had some situations where I've been in the audience and people have started heckling. And I just try and be a supportive audience member in that situation, in terms of keeping my attention focused on the performer and not trying to feed the trolls, I guess is the um, lingo. Yeah. I guess the one thing I would say that's sort of weird for me in a poetry reading, is like I read and write a lot about my disability and scoliosis, and like, the poem often has details about medical stuff, and it's me, but it's not me in the poem. There's that narrator space, where it's sort of amped up and turned into its own little bobule of a poem. But yeah, when people come up and ask like actual personal medical questions, I don't love it. But I just mostly, yeah, if people come up and share something that it reminded them of, or something that they liked, I'm excited when anyone really wants to talk to me about a poem. It's pretty amazing. But yeah, nothing too weird. I think I was mentioning the other day, my favorite thing about like shows, and it's usually at music shows, is when you get like everyone's sitting around there drinking their drinks and bobbing their heads and enjoying it, and then you get like one guy who's just like moshing and like right in front and just like loving every minute of it, and like yeah.
A guy who's like inexplicably like slam dancing to a Leonard
Yeah,
Cohen
just
cover
letting it
song. You're like,
all out. Had a week dancing, 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 found their little happy space. And that's what I love about live performances, is both the
yeah,
joy.
like the spontaneous bursts of joy are
Yeah.
great, but nobody likes a guy or girl or
What's your
vegetable
what's
who's
your
just like,
worst or most
I have a
interesting?
lot. I've been doing it a while, but I have had a lot. I had a guy come into a reading I was doing one time in San Francisco, and he came in and he was just wearing like a Speedo, and he had like the word like die, D-I-E, written, and he just like came up and he like sat cross-legged in front of me like the
Whoa.
whole time, and I'm like, this is, I think it was like my first time doing a show in San Francisco, and I remember like, oh, this is probably performance art. Like, I don't even want to like acknowledge the guy and like give him power or presence on the stage. So I just kind of like moved the mic stand and I was just trying to do it. And then the whole time he just like crossed his arms and he just slowly like stared up at me with like these dead eyes. And then later in the show, somebody came up and then I don't know, we kind of took a break or whatever and came back after the intermission. And he came up to me and I was like, oh, this sucks. This is where I'm going to die, right? And he came up and he was like, good job, Lawson. I usually break people after the second or third poem. Good day. And he just left. And I
So
was
this was
like,
like
all right, San Francisco. All right, I've won the weird whatever. So let me ask, what do you think some of your early like literary influences are? And if there also were like any friends and family members that like pushed you like to keep going and develop your writing when you kind of maybe thought it wasn't going to work out, or kind of got derailed or anything like that?
Oh yeah. I would say um the moment I realized poetry was alive and well was in high school. My friend had a audio tape of Derek C. Brown of Right Bloody Publishing. And I loved it so much. I made her bootleg me a copy, and I listened to that thing religiously. And I was like, oh no, because we'd studied poetry, and I was definitely into creative writing. But I hadn't been exposed to that many living poets, really. And so this was the first time that I realized, like, oh no, there's a scene, there's people doing it, and they're doing it brilliantly. And then I realized, like, oh, all these other Right Bloody poets. I did my degree at UC Santa Cruz, so I had like a lot of support through the program there. Gary Young is a great poet, and he taught me, like I mentioned before, just like the mixed media of poetry. Is like, I love making like little books, so it's like a little book, but
That's
it's
awesome.
also like,
How long does it
like,
take to make something like that from start to finish?
it sort of depends. Like, this is a sort of a cut and paste poem, and this is like, you fold a paper in eighths and then you cut it a certain way and then fold it on top of each other. So these are pretty quick.
And that's like a single poem?
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah,
cool.
yeah. So what I like to do is, like, instead of a business card or something like that, I'll try and take one poem that I think has like a little bit more reach than others, or is a good one to hand to people, I guess.
That one actually kind of has like a really cool Shel Silverstein vibe to it.
Oh yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
So you see this in a little thing, maybe you think you're picking up one piece of paper, all of a sudden
And
it's
they're like, ah, what is this
and like,
thing?
yeah, you have that interest. And then it's like, it's what I call like the poetry frame, right? Like, there's the form, there's the content, there's the words, and then like, what is its physical manifestation in the world? Like, is it just to be printed in a press where other poets are going to read it, or are you trying to put it in the world where someone new might come to the table?
Well, and
And
that's the cool thing, because you can always have a collection or a book, but then in between your books or whatever, you can always do things like that to kind of keep it fresh and keep it alive. And that kind of goes into another thing that I was going to bring up with you, because this is something I've talked about with other people too, which I kind of feel personally like I don't do this anymore. Chapbooks are kind of going away the way of the dodo. I kind of feel like
but
when I started out, like maybe 10 or 15 years ago, they were kind of really flourishing because people were making more of them, but more importantly, people were buying more of them. And I don't know if it's because online media has really just taken over that, which is fine. But like the actual physical paper chapbooks were like so prevalent like 10 or 15 years ago. And you would see people at like doing featured readings, and they would have like, a case of them. They just, come from straight from Kinko's or whatever, and
Yeah.
had like 15 or 20 poems, and it's just like, yeah, I'm just $10 for the poet or whatever. And people don't really do that anymore. People don't really like pass the hat anymore. And I think somebody was saying that there's like the boomer kind of generation before us, kind of, that started that kind of thing. They're not really going to the readings anymore, and some of them are the more like wealthy or well-off patrons, so they're not buying it anymore. So many, like, I kind of feel heartbroken for a lot of kids in like high school and college that are like putting out like that first chapbook, that like first like offering of themselves into the world, and they come and it's like maybe one of their friends or family will buy one. But it kind of, do you think that like the internet has a lot to do with that?
I definitely think that it has, yeah, the poetry scene is keeps shifting and changing. I still think the chapbooks are super viable, because like you said, they are more affordable than buying a full length book. It's a way to get things out in between full projects, like if you're doing a series or a specific topic, or even just like your 10 best poems of the year. But yeah, I mean, especially this last year, there hasn't been much touring, and it is easier to do things like make a PDF and share it as an ebook. Um, but I think that the from what I understand, the poetry field is still widening, but it is more in that younger demographic, and it is, people aren't coming at it necessarily through the book. They're coming, or through the literary magazine. They're finding poetry through YouTube, through Instagram, through all these other ways of sharing. And so a lot of people, instead of like putting out physical copies, will have what is it, like a Patreon or some other way of like, you pay $5 a month and they just share all that content straight to an email, or straight to you electronically, versus, and with the constraints of the pandemic, that's probably gone up some. But I think it just opens up more fields and more places to discover poetry. Like my friend, she did one, her chapbook was Seed Packet. Sorry, the glare is a bit. This one's called Sunflowers. So
Okay.
she had sunflower seeds in here, and
Oh,
for
cool.
each different packet of seeds, there was a different poem, and you could get the whole packet. And I think that's something very interactive, a very creative chapbook that you're not going to find maybe in a, it's like something that's definitely handmade.
No,
And
and
I
I
think
get that. The
that's
hands-on
sort of
approach is
where
the
the,
best. I I'm old school, so I
I love the paper copy too. Yeah.
the reference I'm gonna make is music, and it's just that I prefer, like, if a band or a group I like puts out something, I prefer to get the whole recording, like the whole CD, the whole album, versus just, people now seem to really just cherry pick individual songs. And I feel like that's kind of similar for poetry. And people do put out audio recordings, or on Audible, you can download like individual tracks and things like that. And I
Yeah.
guess overall, nothing is lost. It's just, I think there was like there's the romance of like the book, of like
The 90s
physically
Xerox
holding,
culture, right?
well, yeah, like physically having the book, even if it's on recycled paper or whatever, and just sitting under a lamp and like reading the book. It's just a totally different world. But we gotta shift gears here, because I can't believe we've plowed through so much time already, and we haven't heard any of your poems yet.
Oh
So if you want to read like, let's do like 3 poems, and then I'll wrap up with like a question, because oh my God, it's been almost like 25 minutes.
Okay, let's do it.
Yeah.
Um, I'm going to read some from the collection.
Okay, cool.
This
Did
one's
you say the
called,
name of the book yet? I can't remember.
oh yeah, Here Go the Knives.
Okay.
The Magician's Assistant. That's this poem. The Magician's Assistant sews herself back up every night, backstage, after the show, after the spell has worn off, the makeup and the glitter, the stage lights dimmed. She sits at her mirror, bent over her own figure, needle pulling thread. The operation as routine as square knots, she will stand, rub blood out of wound, take a plug of whiskey and a pull off something often unmentioned, smoke spiraling as she readies herself. To sharpen the saw, to clean and oil the toothed edge, glistening, prepares for tomorrow's show, where a new room full of strangers will gather, gasp open mouthed, in suspense, half believing, half not, as the magician cleaves her in two. The applause is for his miracle and not hers, though it is her body they watch, her body they imagine long after the popcorn's gone stale.
Nice.
Thanks.
All right.
One more?
You can do two more.
Oh, two more. Yay. Okay. Sitting in the coffee shop, I've ordered, and as I wait for my cappuccino, I unpack my rolling papers, my gram of White Widow, freshly purchased at the counter, the skunky smell of the flowers sticky in my fingers as I press them into the shape and roll a joint. My drink served, I sit and sip, draw in my travel journal, light up, inhale, listen to the DJ, who doesn't even lift an eyebrow at me. Here, out in the open, nobody shouts hate, nobody dies, and the pain quiets, and I'm okay. For a little while, I'm okay.
Awesome. And that one was called what?
Sitting in the coffee shop,
Okay.
it's like a little Amsterdam vibe.
Very cool.
And then this last one is called Your Mouth is a Cutting Board, Mine is a Knife. My sister is a teacup with shark teeth brewing. My niece is a squid, a helicopter, a castle, a pink bear puppet on her hand. My best friend is a pelican. My best friend is a watermelon. My best friend slices the bread. I can't read Braille, but it feels right to the touch, the way your mouth opens and closes, your eyes blink, your nose scrunches. My father is a suitcase full of Technicolor photos. My brother once ate my birthday cake, and that really made me cry. I can tell my rabbit doesn't like me, but likes when I let him loose in the grass, scratches a bit when it's time to put him back in his hutch. The fish tank is full of piranha, well, two of them, and as they eat the other fish, I stare at their wide, jutted, thorn-toothed grins. Grasshopper on the branch startles the pants out of me, and when I see the worm in the soil, fat vein, I'm always sure that I've struck oil. You'll know when I've been an ocean. If there is still sand on my tongue, pull me from the waters, a broken wave, pocket full of crab claws, clamshell, kelp in my hair. Remember, you can drown a rose in fresh water, but I am not a rose.
Nice. You kind of slipped into like a little bit of a Southern belle in a little bit there, and I wasn't sure if that was like from an experience or you were like slipping into a character from like, something that you witnessed or?
Oh, probably when my mom's from the Midwest and my dad's folks are from Georgia. So when we lived in Spain, those are my main two English sounds. So sometimes I do have a little bit of an accent from them.
That's so crazy because I lived in Georgia for like a year, so.
It is a place.
Small world. Okay, so let's wrap it up here with this one. Do you keep pen and paper or like iPad or anything to write down ideas if you think of something in the night?
I usually carry like pen, paper, or something to write with as I'm out and about, spend some good time at my desk, which has all my accoutrements. But no, not by the bed, mostly because I've had insomnia in the past, and that's been a problem of like having my creative brain not be able to turn off. um, so I try, like I said, the muse is invited at any time except for bedtime. And I try and welcome her at other times of the day. So to set some time around so she can show up then and let me know.
She's like knocking at the door and it's like 4 o'clock and you're like, fine, come on in. Well, this has been so great chatting with you, and I can't wait for you to share your book with the world here in a few months. So that's going to be awesome, and congrats on everything. I think you are ready for big, awesome things that are going to come your way. So I'm going to cheerlead right now for you. And, and with that, I'll say goodbye, and we'll see you online.
Au revoir, s'il vous plaît, pamplemousse.
Bye.